Hello, friends. I'm Spire Meteorologist James Van Fleet. Our Friday edition of Spire Weather and Climate Video will include the latest on our winter storm, now headed for the mid-Atlantic, that developed over Texas, the Gulf of Mexico, and northern Mexico. And also one last circle back around with Southern California. There's still a couple more waves, not just this weekend, but we're seeing another wave of Santa Ana winds in the early portions of next week. We'll show you what those look like, how fast they're likely to move, and areas that will be impacted. With that said, we start with our deep vision solution. And for our clients, or for those of you who may be eyeing Spire and the weather products and that the solutions that are offered, driving this around, I just want to show you a little bit of how our business clients are using some of these solutions. So, of course, this is our winter storm here that we're looking at. And currently, what we do have, I want to take you through, pull off the radar here. All of these are your winter weather warnings and advisories that are currently in effect. So, running from Oklahoma to the Atlantic Ocean and the Delmarva Peninsula. So, about half of the country's width is under some type of current winter advisory. And of course, from Michigan down to Macon, it's a lot of real estate in the US that we're talking about that is seeing this. Now, I want to drive a couple of features for you in how we analyze and use this data. I'm going to use something called My Routes. So this would be for supply chain if you own a fleet of trucks, even if you're flying. But this one specifically will be for interstates and roads. I have a couple of roads right in here that you can see a route from Mobile to New York. And there's two ways to view this, which is fantastic. So, of course, you can click on My Routes and get what are the advisories here from the latest watches and warnings. But I find the colorization tells you along the route where your advisories are, but it gets even easier than this. As we go to our dashboard, if you're a VP, if you're a manager, CEO, this is often what is used by senior management because it's just a quick snapshot. You don't have to drive around all the graphics, where a lot of the analysts, the meteorologists, and managers who are routing your assets and your fleets want to see more of the graphics. This is a very cool way to visualize it quickly for those who are senior management who don't want to waste time with all that, but do want to know where are my problem spots today. So I have an understanding. So I click on routes here and look how cool, easy to understand this is. Here's all of those current watches and warnings that are in effect if you had a truck going from Mobile to New York. And it gets even better, in my opinion. Not just can you see this and click on the advisory, the details section is really cool. For those of you who needing to know, not just what are the advisories, but where along the routes, because then now you can start to plan how to navigate and mitigate your fleet or your supply chain running these routes. So, for example, you're seeing each one listed as far as what the advisory is, and then it shows you where it starts on the route, how many miles in, so 212 miles, 326 you can see. But then also on this side, it's telling you once you're in it, how long will that last? How many miles will said asset, truck, shipping chain, supply chain, how long will I be sitting in this? And so this is just some great ways to visualize what we're seeing in current ongoing weather. And this is all customizable. You can literally draw your own routes for your own fleet within just a few seconds. And some ways that we are seeing, of course, our clients using this data. I'm going to switch over to our high resolution model. And what we're talking about as far as the forecast goes for this region, then we'll jump over to Southern California. All of this mess, you've got warm, humid air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, cold air coming from the northwest. And as they slam together, there is that messy mixture of ice and snow right along that freeze line. And in fact, what we'll see that continuing from Atlanta to Charlotte to Raleigh, where we've already had quite a bit of snowfall in Atlanta, some impressive video coming out as we expected, but that will be overtaken potentially by some rainfall later this afternoon. And then, of course, do temperatures get cold on the surface or remain cold behind any of that brief warm sector of air from the Gulf of Mexico? And of course, that will be the case. So that then tells us ice will be forming from even any rainfall that hasn't evaporated, any puddles, thin layer of water. As that cold air comes back in, it will freeze that. So I am concerned about black ice and icing in portions of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and southern portions of North Carolina through the remainder of today and in the pre-dawn hours of Saturday. And you can see that that freeze line is right there around Charlotte, Raleigh, Norfolk, with more of just complete snow everywhere to the north of that as we go through Saturday. And then the system starts to pull off the coast around midday Saturday tomorrow. Also, though, with this being said, let me jump and show you real quick some of the snow totals that our models are predicting with the remainder of this system. And that is going to be on the order. You can see we're talking in southern Arkansas or central Arkansas by Little Rock between 7 and 8 inches of rain as we go through the rest of today, tomorrow, and then the last little bit with that last push on Saturday, Sunday. So it will end up being around 8 inches of snow there. Atlanta, 4 to 5 inches should be pretty common in the rain bucket, but even Birmingham, 4 inches. How not usual for Birmingham or Atlanta, is it, as this system goes through. Now I want to jump over, of course, to Southern Cali and show you what we are anticipating with the Santa Ana winds returning, more traditional Santa Ana winds. So again, just want to reiterate, what happened in the first wave will not repeat itself as severely because, as we talked about in earlier videos, I just want to reiterate in case you didn't get a chance to see that one, we had high pressure off of the Pacific. The edge of that was sitting right over Southern California. We had a low pressure over northern Mexico. The airflow clockwise around a high pressure, counterclockwise around a low, convergence right on top of the LA metro and the Southern California region. So you had two weather systems with all the atmosphere that they're driving and steering around them converged together. So it was literally two systems coming together in that convergence on the edges of both of them. That is what enhanced those wind gusts to 100 miles per hour. We will still see very high winds in these remaining waves, but I think it is safe to say somewhere between 20 to 30 mile per hour lower in the gusts. I still can see 50 to 70 mile per hour gusts possible, which we'll show you here. And isolated areas and higher elevations are still possible, but I'm talking about down in the metro, in the foothills. What are we likely looking at? And the next flex for us after getting this much needed break today and a good part of tomorrow, we will see this starting to flex right here. This would be about 9 o'clock in the evening, and right around Long Beach, you can see here are some gusts between Irvine and Long Beach, back around 50 to 55 miles an hour. Farther on the northern side of the LA metro, also seeing between Santa Clarita and Oxnard, 45 to 55 mile per hour gusts will be possible as this system flexes, and it lasts pretty much most of the day Sunday before it starts to pull off. I'd say mid-afternoon, we could expect the winds to start backing down. So a good half day, if not maybe even 3/4 of a day with these strong wind gusts for you on Sunday. And then as you can see, here comes another push on Monday morning up around northern LA. 40, 45 mile per hour winds are possible. And then a bigger flex coming on Tuesday, where you can see just offshore, we're looking at 60 mile per hour wind gusts, but up in the hills, I can anticipate some readings again between 50 and 70 miles per hour, although that won't be the average for the entire area. I think we'll see a few reports in that range and have a chance that 1 or 2 gauges could even go higher than that. But the timing again is Monday, late afternoon, early evening, through the early hours of Tuesday before it finally pulls back briefly late day. One more little flex late Tuesday into early Wednesday of the Santa Ana winds. And then we do look to get a break here around middle of the day Wednesday next week that looks to last at least early into Thursday. And that's the end of our 6-day run hour by hour. So a couple of very strong waves still yet to hit Southern California, unfortunately, that will see wind speeds strong enough to blow around burning embers and hot ash, but thankfully not as extreme as that first wave or two that we saw this week. Those are the areas that obviously have our biggest attention, and rightfully so. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Monday with a fresh take from Spire Weather and Climate. Stay safe.